Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Me, You, and Who. Today, we're joined by Adam Winder, president of SeedTrust, for an insightful conversation about the essential role of escrow services in surrogacy and egg donation. Adam dives into the founding story of SeedTrust and shares how their specialized services are designed to provide trust, security, and transparency in managing complex financial transactions. Together, we discuss the critical need for independent escrow services, the rigorous checks and balances that protect clients' funds, and the importance of audits and oversight to ensure accountability. Beyond the financial side, Adam and I explore the emotional aspects of surrogacy and egg donation and the vital role of a neutral party plays in managing transactions. This allows intended parents, surrogates, and egg donors to focus on what matters most: building families. So, if you're curious about some of the behind the scenes of third party reproduction or want to learn more about how specialized services support this journey, you won't want to miss this episode. Enjoy! Me, you, and who? Who knew it would take more than two people to have a baby? In a world where infertility is no longer a taboo topic, this podcast will take you through all of the different aspects of surrogacy and egg donation through the lens of many who walk this journey in different ways. My name is Whitney Hall, and I am a two-time surrogate, now turned surrogacy coordinator for Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions, the very agency I used when I chose to carry for two amazing families. With this podcast, it is our goal to help guide and support you as you learn about what it takes to grow a family in an alternative way, as well as hear inspiring and beautiful stories of how this path has changed lives forever. We can't wait for you to hear about just one more way happy families are created every day. Okay. Hi, Adam. I'm so glad you're here.
Hey, Whitney, thanks for having us on today.
Absolutely. So, Adam, you are the CEO of a company called SeedTrust. It's an escrow company. For anyone who doesn't know, what is SeedTrust?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So SeedTrust is the leading escrow provider in our industry, serving surrogacy and egg donation cases. Escrow, and like its traditional sense, is almost confused or
Yeah.
confusing in what we do, because what we do is very different than like a title company, per se, that's managing escrow for a house. Because the journeys we manage, especially the surrogacy journeys, can be a couple years and have a lot of transactions and a lot of complexity. And when we
Sure.
started in the industry, what we saw was escrow was actually operating more like a title company 9 years ago when we entered the space, and you had no technology. It was the good old checks in the mail, monthly statement. And what we saw that really there was an opportunity to provide a value add service that really protected everybody. And we tech enabled it, and we actually took the responsibility to check the contract, and we brought in electronic payments and more bells and whistles to actually make it a core utility within the journey that actually protects the parents, the surrogates, and all parties involved.
Yeah, for sure. So, for layman's terms, escrow is what is holding the funds that are needed for a journey and are then dispersed for various items, eventually, either based off of a compensation sheet, eventually, of course, based off of a contract and things like that. So 9 years ago, you we're looking at escrow. How did this even come into your world? What is that financial background for you? And when did you decide, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna basically like bring this dinosaur to the technological age?
Yeah, we're the founding story of our company is almost like a bad joke. A lot of people have heard the joke: a banker, a CPA, and an attorney walk into a
Sure.
door, right? A fun group, right? But no, my business partner, our founder, Edward Brockschmidt, and my other business partner, Roland, the three of us came together to do it. Brock founded the industry and the concept when he was actually working with a tax client of his, and he saw how he's like, hey, this escrow situation is putting you at a lot of risk. and
Sure.
they're actually adding more tension and stress and concern because the payments aren't on time, they're not accurate, they're not
Mm,
checking the receipts and contract, and there's no visibility into the money. So what if something goes wrong, or how do people know what's going on in the journey?
sure.
And then the answer was, well, that's true, but there's no good solution. This is how it's done. And so
Mm,
Edward Brockschmidt, we call him Brock, he said, well, look, he had his own CPA firm. He said, look, I'm gonna use the same principles I did in my accounting firm and tech enable it and bring that to Surrogacy and see if we can make that work. Fast forward a very short period of time, Roland, who's our attorney and also a partner, and then myself, I was running strategy. I was a strategy manager for the commercial division of a large bank.
hmm.
And so and Roland had his own law firm. And then the three of us all decided to completely shut down our existing careers and really focus on escrow because we were all very passionate about helping people build families and creating a secure solution people can really trust.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think you hit on something that's so super important because this is, while very much anytime you're going on a third party journey, whether it's egg donation or surrogacy, trust is a huge factor. But there can be extra safety nets and security in place. So, what would you say, security wise, and really just in general, what would you say sets SeedTrust apart from other escrow companies?
Yeah, no, when you look at an escrow company and the mistake a lot of parents make and a lot of surrogates make is the surrogacy and egg donation journeys are beautiful, and there's really critical decisions to be made, but there's a lot of them, right? Which agency am I going to work with? Which attorney, which doctor, which insurance company? And what we found in the past is escrow is often an after something they don't think of because they have such bigger decisions to make. And so, over the years since we've been here, unfortunately, there's been a lot of issues in escrow in our industry, and it's really
Yeah.
unfortunate. And there's been attorney held issues. There's been agency escrow held issues, which is illegal in most states. And then this year we've had issues with an escrow company.
Right.
So the risk is extremely high. So the catastrophic risk is the money's not there, right? So there's a fraud. Um,
Sure.
and that's terrible. And we'll talk about how that's not possible at SeedTrust and what we have in place. So, and the other risk is if you have an escrow provider that is not qualified, they will make the process harder because we're
Mm,
managing sometimes upward of 100 payments, managing to a very specific contract. So you need the expertise to make sure they can manage the process effectively to where the escrow company doesn't create unnecessary financial stress for the parents or the surrogate or anybody else involved because this process is involved. There's a lot of moving parts. And if the surrogate's not getting paid on time or things aren't getting released when they should be, it can be problematic and create undue financial stress. And also the escrow company plays a very critical role of sitting between the parents, the surrogates, and sometimes the agency and even the attorneys to be an independent view of here's what the contract says, and this is why the money needs to go out, or why it shouldn't go out, or why we need documentation. And we take a lot of pride in helping being that neutral party that can keep the financial conversations away from the parents and surrogates so they can focus and donors so they can focus on what they're doing, which is
hmm.
building a family and having a
Yeah.
baby and not the detailed calculation of lost wages or bed rest
Sure.
or things like that. So, picking an escrow company is an absolutely critical decision. We think, by far we're different than the other ones. And the categories I like to tell people to think about is make sure the team is qualified and experienced, right?
Yeah.
That's a leadership team and staff. Why does that matter? We're looking at contracts. We're managing people's money. Big picture, the company needs to be set up like a professional financial company and run like one, right? You
Hmm.
also, in my opinion, need CPAs and attorneys that have the expertise on how to structure a financial company and look at these contracts and make these decisions when we have to make a judgment call. I think really defined structure, processes, and systems matter. If anybody had business or accounting classes, they would hear the old term checks and balances,
Sure, sure.
which I'm going to get boring here for a minute and I'll try to bring it back. But look, ultimately, checks and balances really matter because you need to make sure that not one or two or three people that could be a bad actor could take the money or misappropriate the money.
Sure.
So what does that mean? So like at SeedTrust, for example, every approval goes through our 5-step process. And for any escrow money to be stolen or moved, it would take 4 teammates colluding that work in different departments, reporting to different managers to move money illegally, including me. Right. So it would take 4 teammates colluding. And let's just say somehow in different divisions and different departments, 4 teammates did collude. Then it would get caught within a couple of days within our internal audit. And if for any reason they got missed in our internal audit, it would get caught in our external audit. But having those checks and balances in place ensure that if a teammate or somebody on our team, which I don't think would ever happen,
sure,
would ever choose or have a personal issue or get addicted to something to try to do that, they would get caught and wouldn't be able to hurt people or take people's money. So I feel very confident that that's not possible given our 5-step approval process in our audits. The other thing, you can have those 5 steps of approval, but if you don't have the proper systems and processes to control it, to make sure they're not bypassed, then they don't matter.
Sure.
So at SeedTrust, we've built a custom escrow system over the last 7 years that controls everything we do. Mm-hmm. So every step of that process goes through our system and nobody can bypass the process in the system. And that goes from start where it's requested, usually by a surrogate or a case manager at an agency, all the way through legal approval, payment approval, bank approval, and then the multi-step verification at the bank level as well. So, and then the audit. So that system controls it and nobody can bypass it. So for example, if my legal operations team approves something, it goes to our payment team and they see something wrong, they can't change it. They have to send it back. So just very thoughtful checks and balances and systems. And we have that around every aspect of every part of our business. When a new vendor is added, it takes multiple people to approve it. So just very thoughtful processes to ensure it's the good old trust but verify, right? So yeah. We have SeedTrust. We have over 50 teammates committed to escrow, 3 attorneys, 2 CPAs, too many MBAs, all of that. But we still want to make sure our processes are secure, so not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 bad actors could hurt our clients because we've been given a great responsibility. The other thing that really matters in escrow is being independent, meaning that we have no greater allegiance to the parent or the surrogate or the donor. Our job is very simple. We handle the money between the parties, and we administer that money in accordance to the underlying agreement.
Yeah.
Anything outside of that agreement, we need to get approval on. So if we have a greater allegiance by way of legal representation of the parent, it creates a major conflict of interest. Mm-hmm. So we can't be unbiased and fair to the surrogate in that situation. So if we think that conflict of interest is too large to be waivable, and it puts actually the agency and the surrogate at risk when the attorneys hold escrow and they represent one party, right? So naturally, an attorney has to viciously defend their client's interests, and that could put everybody at risk. So it's just, and generally speaking, most of them aren't set up as financial companies to do it really well and efficiently. Mm-hmm. But if they are and they are going to hold escrow, then they should just hold escrow for cases where they don't legally represent one party.
Sure.
So and we see it a lot where it causes issues. The other thing is specialized. We often see or pick up problem cases where they tried to use a non-specialized escrow company.
Mm-hmm. We've had fun conversations. Like hey, we hold escrow for a house, but as a favor to you, we'll do this.
Yeah, they know their title company really well. They try to do it, and then that title company doesn't know what they're getting into.
Sure.
Again, because the specialization matters, because what we do is complex. I mean, we're calculating lost wages. We're looking at bed rest. We're scheduling the payments throughout the journey that are due to the surrogate based on specific dates. So I think those are the three things that really matter. So in terms of picking an escrow company to make sure you don't have an issue. Now, as a protection in the event that that fails, you also want to make sure that there are other safeguards in place. So I think an escrow company should be bonded and insured, meaning that there's adequate insurance, to make sure the company could survive an issue, a cyber attack or something along that lines.
Absolutely.
And then also that the client's funds are protected. So, SeedTrust has a $50 million bond, and that's underwritten by 8 insurance companies. So we have 8 insurance companies who their specialty, their whole existence is making money on evaluating risk.
Okay.
And those 8 insurance companies underwrite SeedTrust and take a $50 million risk. If $50 million was ever to be taken or stolen by any of our employees, including the owners, that those insurance companies would have to write that check.
Meaning that if money was stolen, they would write that check back into SeedTrust, and so a account will never be missing the money.
Absolutely.
Or, quote, missing the money.
Absolutely. So if there ever was a theft or a successful theft up to that $50 million, those insurance companies would need to put that money back after due process of confirming theft, legal process.
Sure. Right.
Now, so the bonding, in escrow companies, you'll often go to an escrow company's website and they'll say FDIC insurance, or they'll say their general liability policy. That it's nice to have, but what really matters is their bond. Bonding can be, in this case, it can be a bond or it can be an employee criminal policy. That what you're looking for is a policy that protects escrow funds in the event of a theft, right? So, and my opinion is that the absolute minimum anybody should choose to work with an escrow company is $10 million, and I'll explain why. At $5 million, the underwriting becomes more involved with an insurance company. So if an insurance company is going to say, we're going to take $1 million risk, sometimes they will just place it, and they're doing a lot of them, right? But when you move up to 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 million, the underwriting is quite involved. They're doing background checks. They're underwriting processes. They're underwriting systems. They're verifying bank accounts, because ultimately their company's taking that risk. If there's an event, they have to pay it out. So I like to say a minimum for an escrow company in our space should be at least 10 million. The more, the better, naturally.
Yeah.
And that gets to my next point, which is oversight. So again, trust but verify, right? So, within an escrow company, having professionals that have their license on the line, like CPAs and attorneys, that have a fiduciary responsibility to manage client funds effectively, matters.
Yeah.
Now, look, the risk to them is they're going to lose their license if they do something wrong. And the benefit to the client is if there ever is an issue, and they can make a complaint against that attorney or that CPA or all of them, and that company's going to work really hard to fix it because their licenses are on the line. So that's a function. That fiduciary responsibility is a function of oversight. What we talked about with the bonds, of having insurance companies underwrite the company and say, hey, these big financial companies are good taking a $10 million risk or $5 million risk or $50 million risk. It means they've looked at it and they said everything's there and it's pretty securely run because they're willing to take that risk. And lastly, and most importantly, is audits. So in light of some of the issues we've had in the industry, SeedTrust even did a mid-year audit this year with a top 25 CPA firm, just to give people peace of mind. An audit is a very involved process where a team of CPAs crawl through every aspect of our accounts and books and even contact clients to verify for 4 months.
Oh, wow.
And really, really analyze. And ultimately that CPA firm is putting their insurance and their brand on the line, because if their audit report's not correct,
Mm-hmm.
Their insurance comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't hide anything in an audit. So SeedTrust just issued a letter from an auditor that
Yeah.
says every escrow dollar is that we had at mid-year that we represent that we had is held and held correctly. So that's something, and that's from a big company. So just having this extra oversight to make sure things are as presented and that there's not an issue is really important. So those are the big areas, and then the rest of it's really nice to have, right? So like think about the experience working with the company. What's their customer service? What's their experience in terms of technology and transparency? Those kind of things matter as well because ultimately we're in a business of helping people build families, and we all
Yeah.
need to have a big heart and soul and really care about the clients we're working with. So I think
Mm-hmm.
having a good partner where if things don't go as planned, they're there and actually care to guide you and support you and protect everybody really matters as well. So those are my big dorky escrow reasons that, and in the past we were nicer about not being so aggressive about saying you need to have this to be in the business to hold people's money because there were smaller operators doing it and they had been doing it for
Sure.
a long time. But many of them this year have gone out of business, stolen the money. So our position as an organization now is it doesn't matter who you are, what part of the country you're in,
Mm-hmm.
what degree you have. If you're holding clients' money, you need to have this stuff in place because people need to be protected. So
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's already an emotional process, let alone there is the huge financial aspect of it. And so it is so important to have that trust, to have that transparency, and to have the knowledge and know-how. I mean, I'm a coordinator. I've looked at contracts for forever. I am by no means an attorney, and interpretation is up there. And so to have those um professionals in place to be a neutral party and to make sure and have all of those processes and steps and extra security, and when there is that fail safe, or you have the fail safe of the insurance, the bonds, the auditing, just all of that. I mean, checks and balances is huge. you are you continue to allude to, there has been issues in the past within the industry of, where people's money has been taken, and in the midst of that you had a lot of people not try or have great fear when it did come to escrow. Why is I mean, and I know you've touched on it, but just to really focus on it, why is it so important to have that escrow company, that third party, versus, oh, I'll just Venmo you, or oh, I'll just Zelle you, or write you a check, or give you cash?
yeah, great question. I mean, we view escrow as a core utility in the process, and absolutely critical. And yeah, we took on almost 1,000 pro bono cases this year from troubled situations.
Yeah.
And we've worked with those parents and those surrogates and the people impacted. It's terrifying. And we
Mm-hmm.
totally understand the reaction that some folks are having saying, I don't know if we should
Absolutely.
trust escrow, right? I guess so. First of all, I want to say this is why we got in the business was to create a secure solution that this industry deserves. And this industry and our clients who are going through this beautiful process, who often been through so much to get here,
Mm-hmm.
deserve a secure solution.
Yeah.
Not using escrow is not the answer. Using the right escrow company that's qualified and secure and set up ethically is the right answer.
Mm-hmm.
And you can look both to the structure and the processes in place that we've talked about, and also look to the people running it and what their broader impact is and their
Yeah.
backgrounds and on the industry. Now, the reasons to answer your question directly, the reasons escrow is critical is because there's a lot of pain. It's a lot of money involved.
Mm-hmm.
And in the surrogacy journey in particular, there's a lot of payments.
Yeah.
And these contracts are complex. And you don't want the intended parent or the surrogate in a position where they're constantly having to talk about money and calculations.
Mm-hmm.
and where's my payment? The parents need to be thinking about their future family and building a relationship with their surrogate. And the surrogate needs to focus on caring for the baby that she's carrying, and not the money piece. And if there's not an escrow place, if there's not an escrow company in place, the contract's not really enforceable, because there's a contract that outlines what has to be paid, when, what's included, and what's not. And if that money is not in escrow, the risk is entirely too high for the surrogate that she won't get paid, or that there'll be a delay, or the money's not there on the parent's side. And similarly, for the intended parent to go through that complexity of trying to figure out when all these payments are due, and what the calculation is, and how to schedule the compensation, it is very involved. And not having an escrow company really puts everybody at risk, including all the professionals who are working for this. And look, we've managed 20,000 escrow cases successfully. It's a number we're really proud of. And it's not the majority of them. It's a minority of cases, but there are cases where it gets contested. There are disputes. And escrow is critical in a dispute situation. And sometimes the disputes are not merited. The example I like to give is we had an intended parent who didn't want to pay base comp because the surrogate unfriended them on Facebook.
Oh, no.
And unfortunately, there was no clause in the contract that they had to be friends on Facebook. So the money had to be paid. But in the event, in that situation to where there wasn't an escrow company, they would have held payment, which isn't ideal.
Right.
There are situations where the surrogate is submitting things that should not be paid, or that would need additional approvals, because she doesn't necessarily, she thought it was included, but it wasn't, or she did the calculation wrong. And that's not necessarily the intended parent's expertise either, to make sure that everything's calculated and correct and the right receipts are in place. So, we fix a lot of issues that never have to go to out for approval, and basically make sure that money's managed in the strict coordinates of those contracts. And if some things come across that are not in the contract, we have the expertise to say, this is not in the contract. If we want to pay this, we need approval. So we're protecting everybody. And we've seen cases that actually have started without escrow that come to us and say, please take this. Because the stress on the family and the surrogate's too much. And the risk is extremely high for everybody: the surrogate, the parent, the donor, the agency, everybody involved. Because as soon as somebody's not getting paid on time, or not getting paid in accordance with the contract, you have a major issue that impacts everybody and puts everything at risk, which should not be the focus point in these beautiful journeys.
No, for sure. Absolutely. And again, just reinforces that, you guys are that neutral party that deals in facts within a very beautiful situation, and can still offer empathy and care and love, but also trust and knowledge, and hey, this is how it is. And that is so wonderful to have, especially in a high emotional situation, for sure. And beautiful journey. Absolutely. What would you say, what impact do you hope that SeedTrust has on surrogacy and egg donation long-term?
Yeah, before I answer that, I'd also like to say we in no way take the place of the attorneys. The attorneys that draft the contracts that represent the clients, the surrogate egg donor and the intended parents, who should be separate parties, are absolutely critical. And if we have an interpretation question, or there is a dispute that's formalized, that's when they come into the process to say, here's what the contract says, and we get them to agree. Or if there is a dispute that is merited, then we're going to bring in the attorneys, and they're going to have that discussion and advise their clients. Our role is to guide at that point. Our role is to guide that process. But again, that's 1 or 2%, if probably less. It's actually less than 1% of total requests that we deal with that actually get to that, because we can actually guide through that. So I do want to make sure I compliment the attorneys. Their role in this is critical. The contracting between the parties is absolutely critical. Their role in the event there is issues is absolutely critical. And then our role in managing it to where there's less issues, right? Or
Yeah.
less misunderstanding is also important. Yeah, when we look to the industry as a whole, we are a service company with a true north of making surrogacy and egg donation more secure and more transparent and easier for people going through surrogacy. When we see these events of losses and thefts and issues with escrow, albeit process or notorious with a bad actor, it's heartbreaking. And
Mm-hmm.
we take a lot of pride from moving escrow in its traditional sense from the Stone Age, where there was really no protection
Sure.
for anybody. It was really just an illusion of protection. I mean, again, the prior escrow companies sent checks once a month. The agencies had to take on full responsibility to check the contract and the receipts and submit
Yeah.
everything once a month. The escrow companies didn't take any liability to get the payment correct. They only took the liability to send the payment. There was no such things as scheduled payment calendars
Yeah.
where everything was scheduled so it went out on time and had full transparency. There was no such thing as a system that people could access 24/7 and be translated into different languages. There was no such thing as a big bond that actually protected client funds when we started on
Sure.
this journey. So we as a market leader take a lot of pride in kind of setting the next stage of what is escrow and what an escrow company should do to protect people and constantly innovate. So when we looked at what makes us proud is we keep innovating and keep evolving for the better for
Mm.
this industry and for our clients, even though we're way far ahead of anybody else in the space. And it's back to making it more secure, easier, and better for people so they can focus on building their family.
Yeah.
The journey we're on is working with SeedTrust is like no different than working with your bank. You wouldn't put
Yeah.
your money at a financial institution that wasn't secure. You wouldn't put your
Mm-hmm.
money at a bank that wasn't secure. I come from running or being in leadership of a large bank.
Yeah.
So, what we strive for is that same peace of mind that when you go to your bank and make a deposit, that's similar to SeedTrust, and we're basically there now. So we're constantly working on that kind of true north to make it more secure and better, and then bring in new fun features. Like we recently launched our credit cards that allow
Mm-hmm.
for surrogates insurance to go on the credit card. That removed a huge pain point of insurance payments getting missed. The last couple of months, we released our lost wages calculator, which actually makes it extremely easy for everybody to calculate lost wages and see it right in the portal, which avoids that stress later in the process when
Oh,
you're.
for sure.
So yeah, we're just constantly innovating, making escrow more secure. We also feel like it's our responsibility to push the industry forward to make everybody raise the bar in escrow.
Mm-hmm.
There's always been and there is others holding escrow right now who are not qualified, who do not have the right bonds in place, who do
Mm-hmm.
not have the right checks and balances. And we take some responsibility to help them get there
Yeah.
or get out of the industry. So we've brought solutions for other escrow providers to use our technology. We've introduced others to our bonding agents. Our true north is we just want people to be able to go through this process securely,
Yeah.
and not to make headlines with not for anybody to make headlines of people's money getting taken.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What would you say is your favorite part about what you do?
Yeah, I think I'm honestly just extremely humbled to be able to leverage kind of my passion, experience, and work ethic into an industry that's so beautiful,
Mm.
and it has such a beautiful kind of broader purpose of helping people have families. I
Yeah.
work alongside of just amazing professionals, agencies, attorneys, doctors, insurance companies that just their heart and soul in this industry is to help people build families. And
Mm-hmm.
most of us work around the clock, right, to make that dream for folks come true. And it's just beautiful to have that instant connection to help folks. And albeit, we're a provider and we're in the money piece of it in terms of making sure that's managed
Sure.
securely. We think that's really important. If we can make that easier for everybody involved and protect everybody, is really important. And I've taken a broader role in the industry of serving as the president of the ethics organization.
Mm-hmm.
in the industry and now on the board. I know Katie also
Yes.
is on the board and love working with her directly. But just trying to help guide the overall industry to get it as the industry evolves and as the client needs evolved and as
Mm-hmm.
technologies evolve, we need to keep evolving as professionals and making it safer. So that's that's what keeps me going. And, it all started with me, being blessed to have my daughter and saying, "Gosh, now it kind of clicked." Everybody should have the right
Mm,
to have this experience, to have
yeah.
this beauty of building a family. So super proud of what we're doing. I think any business, you have the beauty of solving a meaningful problem. And in our
Yeah.
business, it's making sure that surrogacy and egg donation escrow can be managed effectively, transparently, in a transparent way, and securely.
Mm-hmm.
And then also building an awesome team. I mean, we
Yeah.
have a really awesome team of professionals. I think in the escrow company, it's like I said, it's over 50. I think we're at 57 now, of people who just wake up every day passionate about helping people and protecting people, and it's just really awesome. So just it's a lot of fun and beautiful.
Yeah, I think what did you say? The kind of like nerd out aspect of it. I mean, it is you at the end of the day, you really are you're helping people and you're offering a peace of mind so that everyone part of that process can focus on the beautiful journey that is happening and not worrying about is it net versus gross or whatever it may be. And so I can personally say I have loved working with SeedTrust as a coordinator, as a surrogate. I am so grateful and appreciative of everything you do for this industry and how you continue to want to move the industry forward and just again continue to improve and bring a standard that is required so that there is that protection and peace of mind. So I appreciate everything that you and SeedTrust does for sure. My final question to you, and it's a fun one. For anyone who knows me, they know that I have a very codependent relationship on coffee. Coffee and I are such good friends. I would say family at this point, but I always like to ask what filled your cup today, literally or figuratively. What was the thing that filled your cup?
I have to be honest and admit that I also have a very close affiliation with my coffee, and
Cheers.
maybe I drink a little bit too much because
Uh
it's
huh.
it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon and I'm still having coffee. But
Absolutely. I can
uh,
relate.
look, I've enjoyed our discussion today. It's been so fun, and it's good to kind of reflect on the business and the industry and what we do as well. And may I have one request?
Yeah.
If you work with Seed Trust, please send us the baby photos.
Oh,
We get baby
yes.
photos all day, and it just makes our day. What we do is hard. Our team works extremely hard and
Yeah.
to deliver, and getting the baby photos is so beautiful. It makes
Oh,
our
it's
day.
the best part. It's the
Yes.
best part. Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. For sure. Okay. For anybody out there who has SeedTrust, send them your baby photos. It's so worth it. And as a coordinator, I totally hear you. It's like, oh, there it is. There's that little bundle. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
Well,
thanks for having me on. We love working with you all. The agency in this process is the true heroes that brings everybody together and takes the major role of guiding everybody through the process, including managing the providers and keeping us all on track at
sure.
times. And when anything goes wrong, no matter what, it's typically blamed on the agency, which isn't. I'm not saying it's always fair, but the agencies have such a critical and important role. They are really the heroes that brings us all together and makes this possible for families. And you guys do an amazing job. We love working with you. You run a really professional organization and the process, and we just see how well you care for your clients. So thanks for having me on, and we appreciate being able to work together on cases.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you. We so appreciate everything that you do for sure. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Whitney. Have a great day. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Me, You, and Who. We appreciate your time and hope you enjoyed our discussion today. As we wrap, we would like to remind you of some of the ways that you can stay connected with us and be part of the Me, You, and Who podcast community. Firstly, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode and can stay up to date with our latest content. But that's not all. We also have an exciting YouTube channel where we share some bonus content, behind the scenes glimpses, and video versions of our episodes. Head over to YouTube and hit that subscribe button there as well. And don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll be the first to know when the new episodes go live. And for more exclusive updates, engaging discussions, and a chance to connect with fellow listeners. Be sure to follow us on our social media accounts. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Create a Happy Family. If you're interested in finding out more about creating a happy family, please visit us at www.createahappyfamily.com. Thank you again for being part of the Me, You, and Who community. Your support means the world to us. I can't wait for you to join us next time as we continue to share stories and journeys of creating happy families.